Welcome to another episode of Super English Talks. I'm really happy that you're here with me today. Take a moment to relax. Maybe grab a cup of tea or coffee, and let's spend a little time together exploring an idea that could change the way you think about your life, your work, and even your relationships. Today, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence and why, in many situations, it can be even more important than IQ, your intelligence quotient. Let me begin with a simple question. Would you rather be the smartest person in the room or the person everyone trusts? Think about that for a second. Being the smartest sounds great, right? People admire intelligence. They respect smart people. Many of us grow up believing that being clever or having a high IQ is the secret to success in life. But here's something interesting. How many times have you met someone who is very smart, who could solve complex problems or remember lots of information, but who wasn't very good at working with other people? Maybe they were impatient, or they didn't listen well, or they made others feel small. Now think of someone else you know, maybe not the most intelligent person in a technical sense, but someone who made you feel comfortable, respected, and understood. Someone who listened carefully, spoke kindly, and helped others feel valued. Which person left a stronger impression on you? That's the power of emotional intelligence, or EQ. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand your own emotions, manage them in healthy ways, and recognize and respond to the emotions of others. It's about empathy, patience, kindness, communication, and trust. IQ, on the other hand, measures your logical thinking, memory, and problem-solving skills. It tells you how well you can analyze and understand information. Of course, IQ is important. It helps you study, plan, and make decisions. But in real life, when you're facing challenges, working in a team, or dealing with difficult situations, EQ is often what helps you succeed. Let me share a story to show you what I mean. A few years ago, I was part of a project at work. It started out well, but soon things began to fall apart. Deadlines were missed, and everyone was stressed. The smartest person on the team, the one with the highest qualifications, had all the answers on paper. But instead of helping, he often criticized others and made people feel bad about their mistakes. The team spirit went down, and no one wanted to work together anymore. Then something changed. Another colleague, who wasn't the most technically skilled, stepped in. He stayed calm and kind. He listened to everyone, encouraged them, and helped people feel confident again. Slowly, the team began to work together, and the project was saved. It wasn't high intelligence that fixed the problem, it was emotional intelligence. That experience taught me something powerful. Being emotionally intelligent can make a bigger difference than just being smart. So, in this episode, we'll explore this idea in more detail. We'll talk about why emotional intelligence often matters more than IQ in real life. How EQ can shape your career, your friendships, and even how you feel about yourself. And most importantly, how you can start building your own emotional intelligence step by step. Because EQ isn't something you're born with, it's something you can learn and grow. You can become better at understanding your feelings, expressing them in a healthy way, and connecting with others more deeply. So stay with me, because this journey might just change how you see yourself and the people around you. Let's begin by understanding the difference between emotional intelligence, EQ, and intelligence quotient, IQ. Most of us have heard about IQ before, It's a number that shows how well someone can think logically, solve problems, or remember information. But EQ goes beyond that. It's not just about what you know, it's about how you feel, how you act, and how you make others feel. And that, in many ways, is what truly shapes our success in life. Let's talk more about IQ and EQ, what they really mean and how they work in real life. IQ stands for intelligence quotient. It's a way to measure how well someone can think, reason, and solve problems. In simple words, IQ is about how well your brain works with logic, how quickly you can understand information, how good you are at analyzing it, and how fast you can find solutions. For example, someone with a high IQ might find it easy to solve difficult math problems, understand scientific theories, or learn new technical skills very quickly. We often connect IQ with school performance, exam results, or academic success, and it's true that IQ can help in those areas. But here's the important thing. IQ is not the full picture of human ability. Life is not like a school test. Real life is emotional, unpredictable, and full of different kinds of people. You can't solve everything with logic alone. And that's where emotional intelligence, or EQ, comes in. EQ is the ability to understand your own emotions, manage them in a healthy way, and recognize and respond to the emotions of others. It's about empathy, communication, self-awareness, and the ability to build trust and positive relationships. If IQ measures how smart you are with your head, EQ measures how smart you are with your heart. Let's make this difference crystal clear with a few examples. Imagine you're in a job interview. Your IQ helps you answer questions, explain your skills, and show that you can do the job. But what if you start feeling nervous? What if your hands shake, your voice trembles, or your mind goes blank? That's when EQ becomes essential. Emotional intelligence helps you stay calm, control your anxiety, breathe deeply, and connect with the interviewer in a confident, friendly way. Here's a key idea to remember. IQ might help you get the job, but EQ helps you keep it and grow in it. Now, let's think about teamwork. A person with high IQ may give great technical answers or clever ideas. But if that person can't explain their ideas clearly, gets frustrated when others disagree, or refuses to listen to different opinions, their intelligence loses power. On the other hand, someone with high EQ might not always have the smartest idea, but they listen carefully, stay patient, and encourage everyone to share. They create an atmosphere of trust, where people feel respected and safe to speak up. And when that happens, the whole team usually does much better. We can also see the difference between IQ and EQ in everyday life. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. A person with high IQ might quickly calculate the best alternative route or know exactly how long it'll take to get home. But if that person gets angry, starts honking, shouting, or losing control, their intelligence doesn't really help them much in that moment. Someone with high EQ, however, might still feel stressed, but they can pause, take a breath, and remind themselves, "It's okay, I'll get there eventually." They manage their emotions and keep their peace of mind. That's emotional intelligence at work. So, what exactly makes up EQ? Many psychologists say emotional intelligence has 4 main parts. Self-awareness, knowing what you feel and why you feel that way. Self-management, being able to control your emotions, even when things are stressful. Social awareness, understanding how other people feel and what they might be going through. Relationship management, using that awareness to communicate well, build trust, and solve conflicts. Together, these 4 areas shape your emotional intelligence, and they influence almost everything in your daily life, from how you speak to others, to how you handle stress, to how you make decisions. To make it more personal, think about your own experiences. When was the last time your emotions affected your actions, maybe in a good or a bad way? Have you ever felt proud of how you stayed calm under pressure? Or maybe you've wished you handled a situation differently. Those moments are chances to grow your EQ. And the good news is, emotional intelligence can be learned and improved, one step at a time. Have you ever been in a situation where you said something you later regretted, just because you were angry? That's a moment when your emotional intelligence, or EQ, was low. Or maybe you've had the opposite experience. Perhaps you were talking to a friend who was upset, and you really listened to them. No judging, no interrupting, just listening. And afterward, they told you they felt better, calmer, even thankful for your support. That's EQ in action. Notice something important here. None of these situations are about solving math problems or remembering facts. They're about understanding emotions and connecting with people. IQ might help you get good grades or learn quickly, but EQ is the skill that makes life smoother, relationships stronger, and success more meaningful. Without emotional intelligence, pure intelligence can sometimes feel cold, distant, or incomplete. But when IQ and EQ work together, that's when people become truly powerful, not just in their careers, but also in their personal lives. Why EQ matters in daily life. Now that we understand what emotional intelligence is, let's look a little deeper and see why EQ really matters in everyday life. When people think of success, they often think about school achievements, promotions at work, or how much money someone makes. But if you look closely at your daily experiences, you'll see that much of your happiness, and even your progress, depends on emotions. Your emotions, and also the emotions of the people around you. That's why EQ plays such a big role in our careers, friendships, and family life. Managing stress. Let's start with stress, something everyone experiences. It could be stress from exams, from deadlines at work, or even from family problems. Here's the thing, IQ doesn't really help with stress. You might be the smartest person in the room, but if you lose control of your emotions when things go wrong, your intelligence won't protect you. Emotional intelligence, however, helps you recognize your feelings, take a step back before reacting, and handle situations more calmly. For example, imagine something goes wrong at work. A person with low EQ might shout, blame others, or panic. But someone with high EQ would pause, take a deep breath, maybe walk away for a moment, and come back with a clearer mind. That small difference, the ability to manage emotions, can change everything. It reduces stress, improves relationships, and helps you make better decisions, even in tough moments. Communication. Now think about communication, especially at work or school. Good communication can open doors, while poor communication can close them. If you only rely on IQ, you might explain things perfectly in a logical way. But if your tone is harsh or impatient, people might stop listening. They won't remember your logic, they'll remember how you made them feel. EQ helps you choose your words carefully, read the emotions of others, and adjust your message so people feel respected and understood. A colleague who feels valued will want to work with you again. A friend who feels heard will trust you more. That's how emotional intelligence directly shapes your success in both professional and personal life. Handling conflicts. Let's look at another area, conflict. Every human relationship has disagreements. It might be with coworkers, friends, or family members. If you rely only on IQ, you might try to win the argument to prove that you're right. But winning an argument is not the same as solving a conflict. Emotional intelligence helps you pause and think. Why is this person upset? What are they really trying to say? What do they need from me right now? When you use empathy instead of ego, you can find solutions that make both sides feel respected. That's how EQ helps you build trust, keep friendships strong, and maintain peace at home. A simple example. Imagine a family dinner. Two relatives start arguing. One person insists they're right. They raise their voice, list all the reasons, and point out every mistake the other person has made. That's a high IQ approach full of facts, logic, and evidence. But what happens? The other person feels attacked. The room becomes tense. Everyone else at the table feels uncomfortable. Now imagine a different response. What if one of them stayed calm, listened, and said, "I understand why you feel that way. Let's talk about it later when things are quieter." That's EQ. It changes the energy completely. No shouting, no hurt feelings, just understanding. And that's the quiet strength of emotional intelligence. Now imagine someone else at that family dinner. They stay calm, listen carefully to both sides, and say something like, "I understand you're upset, and I see why this matters to you. Let's try to find a way to move forward." That's emotional intelligence in action. Which person do you think helps the situation more, the one who argues loudly, or the one who listens calmly and shows understanding? Of course, it's the second person. EQ in friendships. Emotional intelligence also appears in our friendships, often in small but powerful ways. It's in the friend who notices when you're quiet and asks gently, "Hey, are you okay?" It's in the person who listens when you need to talk, without interrupting or judging. In these moments, knowledge or intelligence don't matter. What makes these interactions meaningful is patience, empathy, and emotional awareness, the ability to be present and truly care about how someone feels. These are the qualities that build strong, lasting connections. Here's something to reflect on. Think of a time when you had to calm someone down, maybe a friend, a child, or a colleague who was upset. What mattered more in that moment, your knowledge or your patience? Most likely, it wasn't a clever fact or an intelligent solution that helped. It was your tone of voice, your body language, and your ability to listen. That is the quiet but powerful influence of emotional intelligence in everyday life. The real power of EQ. When you put all of this together, it becomes clear why emotional intelligence is so important. It affects how you handle stress, how you communicate, how you resolve conflicts, and how you build meaningful relationships. In the long run, these emotional skills often matter more than pure intelligence. After all, people rarely remember you for the facts you shared or the clever things you said, but they almost always remember how you made them feel. EQ in the workplace, the real superpower. Now let's move from personal life into the workplace, where the importance of emotional intelligence becomes even clearer. In today's world, very few jobs are done completely alone. Even if your role seems individual, you're still connected to a team, a manager, or clients in some way. This means that your ability to work well with people is just as important as your technical knowledge, and in many cases, even more so. That's why emotional intelligence is often called a superpower in professional life. Teamwork. Let's start with teamwork. A team is made up of people with different personalities, strengths, weaknesses, and ways of thinking. Of course, technical knowledge is important. A project can't move forward without skill or expertise. But knowledge alone doesn't guarantee success. Imagine a team where everyone is smart, but no one listens to each other. People talk over one another, ideas clash, and egos rise. In the end, progress becomes slow and frustration grows. Now imagine a different kind of team, one where people listen, respect each other's opinions, and give everyone space to speak. They don't always agree, but they stay calm, discuss openly, and adapt when problems come up. Even if they're not the most intelligent group in terms of IQ, they often achieve better results because their emotional intelligence allows them to work together smoothly. Leadership. Another area where EQ shines is leadership. Many people think that a good leader is simply the smartest or most experienced person in the room. But true leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about inspiring, guiding, and bringing out the best in others. A leader with high IQ but low EQ might make excellent plans and strategies, but still fail to motivate the team. Why? Because they don't connect emotionally with the people doing the work. On the other hand, a leader with high emotional intelligence understands how people feel. They can recognize when someone is stressed, discouraged, or doubting themselves, and they know how to respond. They offer encouragement, build trust, and help people believe in their abilities again. That's what makes a leader truly effective, not just intelligence, but emotional connection. Such a leader doesn't just manage tasks, they manage people's energy, emotions, and confidence. And often, that's what makes the biggest difference between a good workplace and a great one. Let me share a real example to show you what this looks like in action. A few years ago, I worked with two colleagues who were completely different from each other. The first one was extremely talented. He had excellent technical skills, worked fast, and always wanted to prove that he was the smartest person in the room. There was no doubt he had a very high IQ. But he also had a problem. He was arrogant. When someone made a mistake, he criticized them harshly. When someone suggested a new idea, he dismissed it immediately, without listening. At first, people admired his intelligence. But over time, they started to avoid him. Even though he was smart, he made others feel small, nervous, and uncomfortable. The atmosphere in the office became heavy whenever he was around. Then there was the second colleague. He wasn't as technically skilled as the first. Sometimes, he needed more time to finish tasks, and he didn't always have the best or quickest solution. But he had something even more valuable: emotional intelligence. He noticed when others were stressed and offered to help. He listened carefully during meetings and made sure quieter team members had a chance to speak. When mistakes happened, he didn't blame anyone. He encouraged learning and improvement instead. Very quickly, people began to trust him. They liked working with him because he made them feel supported and respected. And here's the interesting part: when important projects came up, managers often chose him to lead. Not because he was the smartest in the technical sense, but because his emotional intelligence made the entire team stronger. This story shows something important. Success at work isn't only about how much you know, it's about how well you connect, adapt, and communicate. You might have the highest IQ, but if you can't stay calm under pressure, if you don't listen to others, or if you handle conflict without respect, your intelligence loses its power. Emotional intelligence, on the other hand, gives you the ability to stay balanced when things don't go as planned. It helps you stay calm when deadlines feel impossible, and it helps you support others when they face difficulties. And these are the qualities that people truly remember and respect. Think about it. Who would you rather work with every day? Someone who makes you feel small, stressed, or nervous? Or someone who makes you feel confident, valued, and supported? Most of us would choose the second person. And that's the key idea here. Success at work isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the person who listens, adapts, and connects. That's what emotional intelligence helps you become. EQ in personal relationships. When most people hear the term emotional intelligence, they often think of professional life, teamwork, leadership, and career growth. But in truth, emotional intelligence plays an even deeper role in our personal relationships with friends, family, and partners. Think about it. Our closest relationships are not built on how clever we are or how much knowledge we have. They are built on how well we understand and handle emotions, both our own and other people's. It's not intelligence that keeps a friendship strong. It's kindness, patience, and empathy. It's the way you listen when someone is having a bad day. It's the way you stay calm during disagreements. It's how you apologize when you hurt someone and how you forgive when someone hurts you. In romantic relationships, emotional intelligence helps you communicate honestly, respect boundaries, and manage conflicts without breaking trust. It helps you say, "I understand how you feel," instead of "you're overreacting." It helps you express love not just with words, but with actions and understanding. In friendships, EQ shows up in small moments, like noticing when a friend seems quiet and asking if something's wrong, or remembering what's important to them even when they don't say it. And in family life, EQ helps parents and children understand each other better. A parent with emotional intelligence listens before giving advice. A child with emotional intelligence learns how to express feelings without shouting or shutting down. Empathy, self-awareness, and active listening, these are the real keys that make relationships strong, meaningful, and long-lasting. Because at the end of the day, people don't remember how smart you are. They remember how you made them feel loved, respected, and understood. Let's start with one of the most important parts of emotional intelligence, empathy. Empathy means being able to step into someone else's shoes, to imagine what they might be feeling, and to respond with kindness and care. It's about seeing the world not only through your own eyes, but also through the eyes of others. In friendships, empathy shows up in the smallest moments. It's when you notice that your friend seems upset, even though they're trying to hide it behind a smile. It's when you ask simple but powerful questions like, "Are you okay?" or "Do you want to talk?" Those small gestures build connection. They tell the other person, "I see you, I care about you, and you're not alone." In a marriage or partnership, empathy means not just listening to the words, but also paying attention to the feelings behind the words. Sometimes someone says, "I'm fine," but their tone is quiet or their face looks tired. Empathy helps you understand that what they really need is not silence, but support and comfort. Without empathy, relationships become shallow and distant. With empathy, they become deep, warm, and full of trust. Now let's talk about self-awareness. Self-awareness means understanding your own emotions, knowing what you're feeling and why, and noticing how those feelings affect the people around you. Think about a time you were in an argument. If you were angry but didn't realize it, maybe you raised your voice or said things you later regretted. But if you were self-aware, you might have noticed the anger building and thought, "I'm getting upset right now. Maybe I should pause before I respond." That short pause can make a big difference. It can save a relationship from unnecessary hurt. Self-awareness also helps you understand your needs and communicate them clearly, instead of expecting others to guess how you feel. When you're honest with yourself, you create space for honesty and respect in your relationships too. Another powerful part of emotional intelligence is active listening. Too often, when someone is talking, we're not really listening. We might be thinking about our reply, checking our phone, or distracted by our own thoughts. Active listening means giving your full attention not only to the words, but also to the emotions behind them. It means maintaining gentle eye contact, nodding to show understanding, and using your body language to say, "I'm here with you. I'm listening." Think about the last time someone truly listened to you. No interruptions, no distractions, no rush. How did it feel? Most people describe that experience as a gift. They feel heard, respected, and understood. That's how trust is built, one conversation at a time. Now, to really see the difference between IQ and EQ in personal relationships, let's look at two very different people. First, imagine a person with high IQ. They are logical, knowledgeable, and great at debating. In every discussion, they always have the facts, the data, and the clever answers. They often win arguments. But over time, the people around them stop arguing, not because they agree, but because they're tired of feeling defeated or unheard. The high IQ person wins the argument, but loses the connection. They win with logic, but lose with emotion. Now imagine another person with high EQ. They may not always have the perfect answers, but they listen deeply. They try to understand what the other person feels, even when they disagree. Instead of saying, "You're wrong and here's why," they might say, "I see your point and I understand why you feel that way. Let's see if we can find some common ground." This second person doesn't win in the traditional sense, but they build trust, respect, and emotional safety. And in relationships, that's far more valuable than victory. If you look at your own life, you might notice examples of both kinds of people. Maybe you know someone who's incredibly smart but difficult to be around, someone who always needs to prove they're right. Or maybe you know another person who isn't the most academically gifted, but who always listens, supports, and makes others feel valued. Which person would you rather spend time with? For most of us, the answer is clear. We choose emotional intelligence over pure intelligence almost every time. Because at the heart of all of this lies one simple truth. What people remember most is not how smart you are, but how you make them feel. Relationships are not competitions. They're not about who is right or wrong or who wins or loses. They're about connection, trust, and shared experiences. Emotional intelligence gives us the tools to nurture those connections, to understand people more deeply, to repair relationships when they break, and to make them stronger with every honest conversation and every act of empathy. Challenges and growth in emotional intelligence. When people first hear about emotional intelligence, it can sound like something only a few people are naturally good at, as if some are born calm, patient, and understanding while others simply aren't. But that's not true. Emotional intelligence is not fixed. It's not something you either have or don't have. It's a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed with time, patience, and practice. Of course, growing emotionally isn't always easy. There are challenges that almost all of us face when trying to improve our EQ. Recognizing these challenges is the first step toward overcoming them. 1. The challenge of perfectionism. One of the biggest barriers to emotional growth is perfectionism, the belief that you must get everything right all the time and that mistakes are unacceptable. People with perfectionist tendencies often push themselves too hard. They might criticize themselves for every little error and become frustrated when things don't go exactly as planned. This mindset makes it difficult to grow emotionally because emotional intelligence requires flexibility, patience, and self-compassion. If you are always chasing perfection, you may ignore or suppress your feelings instead of learning from them. For example, you might think, "I shouldn't feel angry," instead of asking, "Why am I angry, and what is this emotion trying to tell me?" Recognizing that emotions aren't good or bad, they're simply signals, is one of the most important steps in developing EQ. When you listen to your emotions instead of judging them, you start to understand yourself more clearly. 2. The challenge of self-doubt. Another common obstacle is self-doubt, that inner voice that constantly questions your worth, your abilities, or your decisions. When you doubt yourself too much, you may avoid speaking up even when you have something valuable to say. You might fear rejection or judgment, so you hold back from forming deeper connections. But emotional intelligence often requires courage, the courage to be honest about your feelings, to show vulnerability, and to trust others. Building EQ means slowly learning to believe in your own value. It means seeing mistakes not as proof that you are weak, but as opportunities to grow stronger. For example, if a conversation doesn't go as you hoped, instead of replaying it in your mind and criticizing yourself, you can ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I communicate better next time?" That mindset shift from judgment to curiosity is the heart of emotional growth. 3. The challenge of reacting instead of responding. This is something we all experience. Someone says something that upsets us, and before we even think, we snap back with angry words. Later, we regret it and wish we had handled things differently. That's called reacting, letting emotions take control in the heat of the moment. Responding, on the other hand, means taking a short pause, a breath, and choosing your words with care. It might only take a few seconds, but those few seconds make a world of difference. People with high emotional intelligence aren't people who never get angry or frustrated. They are people who know how to pause, reflect, and respond in a way that helps instead of harms. Imagine a parent who's tired after a long day and their child spills something accidentally. A quick reaction might be shouting, "Why can't you be more careful?" But a calm response might be, "It's okay, let's clean it up together." The situation is the same, but the emotional outcome is completely different. That's the quiet power of EQ. It turns moments of tension into moments of understanding. Emotional intelligence doesn't grow overnight. It takes awareness, patience, and a willingness to learn, not from books, but from real moments of everyday life. Every time you pause before reacting, listen instead of interrupting, or show kindness instead of judgment, you're strengthening your EQ muscle a little more. And over time, those small choices transform not only your relationships with others, but also your relationship with yourself. The good news, you can grow your emotional intelligence. Here's something that might surprise you. Emotional intelligence can grow. You are not stuck with the level of EQ you have right now. Just like learning a new language or improving a muscle, emotional intelligence develops with time, effort, and awareness. There are many small but powerful practices that can help you strengthen your EQ step by step. Let's explore a few of them. 1. Journaling. Understanding your emotions on paper. Writing down your thoughts and feelings at the end of each day can do wonders for your self-awareness. This simple habit, known as journaling, helps you slow down and notice patterns in your emotions. For example, you might realize that you often feel frustrated after talking to a certain colleague, or that you feel anxious every time you start a new project. By seeing these patterns written down, you begin to understand why you feel the way you do. This awareness is the first step toward managing emotions instead of being controlled by them. You can ask yourself gentle questions such as, "What triggered this feeling? How did I react? What could I do differently next time?" Over time, journaling helps you move from simply feeling emotions to actually understanding them, and that's a sign of growing emotional intelligence. 2. Mindfulness. Staying present and calm. Another powerful tool is mindfulness. Mindfulness simply means paying attention to the present moment, to your thoughts, your feelings, and even your breathing without judging any of it. You don't have to sit cross-legged for hours to be mindful. It can be as simple as taking 3 slow breaths before answering a difficult email or noticing how your body feels when you're under pressure. Mindfulness helps you slow down, calm your mind, and notice your emotions before they take over. When you practice it regularly, you begin to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. Over time, mindfulness builds inner peace, focus, and emotional balance, all key parts of EQ. 3. Asking for feedback, seeing yourself through others' eyes. Sometimes, no matter how self-aware we try to be, we can't see ourselves clearly. That's why asking for feedback is such a valuable practice. You can ask a trusted friend, family member, or coworker questions like, how do I come across when we talk? Do I interrupt people? Do I handle stress well? At first, feedback can feel uncomfortable. Nobody likes to hear that they could improve. But feedback is one of the fastest ways to grow because it helps you see the difference between how you think you act and how others actually experience you. When you receive feedback with openness instead of defensiveness, you show emotional maturity, and that's a sure sign your EQ is developing. Remember, emotional intelligence is a journey, not a destination. You'll never be done learning, and that's the beauty of it. Moving past the barriers. Earlier, we talked about 3 major challenges that can hold you back: perfectionism, self-doubt, and reacting without thinking. The good news is that practices like journaling, mindfulness, and asking for feedback directly help you overcome those barriers. Journaling helps perfectionists see emotions as information, not mistakes. Mindfulness gives you the calm needed to handle self-doubt. Feedback helps you respond with awareness instead of reacting in anger or fear. Emotional intelligence is not about being perfect. It's about being aware, being patient, and being willing to learn. Every small step you take, every pause before reacting, every moment of honest reflection, builds your EQ and strengthens your relationships with both yourself and others. Why emotional intelligence beats IQ in real life. When most people think about success, they picture intelligence as the most important factor. We imagine the student who always gets the best grades, the worker who solves problems the fastest, or the person who always has the right answers. And yes, IQ, or intelligence quotient, is valuable. It measures logic, reasoning, and problem-solving skills. But here's the surprising truth. In real life, IQ alone doesn't guarantee success or happiness. Life is not like a math exam where there's one correct answer and you're graded for being the smartest. Real life is full of emotions, challenges, and people are unpredictable. You can be the most intelligent person in the room, but if you can't manage your emotions, if you can't stay calm under pressure, or if you can't connect with others, your intelligence loses its power. That's where emotional intelligence becomes even more important than IQ. A simple example. Imagine you're at work and your boss criticizes your project. A high IQ might help you understand what went wrong and fix the technical mistakes quickly. But a high EQ helps you manage your emotions in that difficult moment, the stress, the embarrassment, or even the frustration. Instead of reacting defensively or shutting down, you take a breath, listen carefully, and use the feedback to improve. That's emotional intelligence in action, and it's what allows you to grow stronger rather than fall apart. Why emotional intelligence wins in real life. Instead of reacting with anger or shutting down, someone with strong emotional intelligence can stay calm, listen, and turn criticism into growth. Now think about this for a moment. Who do you think succeeds more in the long run? The person who reacts emotionally and lets frustration take over, or the person who responds with patience, maturity, and self-control? It's almost always the second one. Because emotional intelligence helps you stay grounded when life feels heavy. It allows you to turn difficult moments into learning experiences instead of painful ones. EQ in friendships and family. Let's take this idea beyond work. Think about your friendships or family relationships. You could be the smartest person in your group, full of ideas, quick answers, and knowledge. But if you always interrupt others, if you constantly try to win arguments, or if you fail to notice when someone is feeling sad or uncomfortable, those relationships will slowly weaken. Emotional intelligence is what helps you notice when your friend says, "I'm fine," but their eyes tell a different story. It's what helps you stay kind, even when you're busy or tired. And it's what makes people feel safe, heard, and respected when they're around you. In the end, people won't remember you for your IQ score. They'll remember how you made them feel. EQ in leadership. This difference between IQ and EQ is also very clear in leadership. A boss with a high IQ but low EQ might create a cold, tense, or stressful workplace where employees feel unappreciated and afraid to speak up. They may be smart, but their intelligence doesn't inspire anyone. A boss with high EQ, on the other hand, knows how to listen, how to motivate others, and how to handle conflict without destroying trust. They make people feel valued and capable. That's why research consistently shows that leaders with high emotional intelligence are more successful. People follow them not because they have all the answers, but because they create an environment of respect, empathy, and understanding. The balance between IQ and EQ. Here's a simple way to look at it. IQ might open the first door. It might help you get the job or pass the exam. But EQ is what keeps you inside the room, helps you grow, and helps you move to the next level. IQ gives you knowledge. EQ gives you wisdom, the wisdom to use that knowledge in ways that truly connect with people. And since life is built on relationships, at work, at home, and in society, emotional intelligence often makes the biggest difference in real-world success. What this means for you. So, what does all this mean for you personally? It means that if you've ever doubted yourself because you weren't the smartest in the room or because you didn't get top grades, you don't need to feel limited. Your emotional intelligence, your ability to listen, to stay calm, to show empathy, and to adapt can take you further than you might imagine. The best part? EQ is not fixed. Unlike IQ, which is more difficult to change, emotional intelligence can grow with practice. Every time you pause before reacting, every time you listen deeply to someone, and every time you reflect on your own emotions, you're training your EQ. You're becoming more aware, more balanced, and more connected to others. The hidden connection between EQ and language. And here's something powerful to remember. As you practice emotional intelligence, you are also improving your English. How? Because both EQ and language learning require the same qualities: awareness, patience, and practice. When you listen carefully to understand someone's feelings, you are also training your listening skills in English. When you express your thoughts clearly and kindly, you are improving your communication. So, by developing your emotional intelligence, you're also becoming a better communicator, not just in your native language, but in English too. That's two valuable skills growing together, side by side. So the next time you wonder whether IQ or EQ matters more, remember this. Knowledge is important, but without emotional intelligence, it's like having a car without fuel. It may look impressive, but it won't take you very far. EQ is the fuel that keeps your knowledge moving forward. It turns understanding into connection, success into meaning, and intelligence into true wisdom. Cultural references and real-life stories. EQ is the fuel that moves you forward. It connects you to people and turns intelligence into real success. When we talk about emotional intelligence, it can sometimes sound like a theory, something abstract that belongs in psychology books. But in truth, emotional intelligence has shaped history, leadership, and even the stories we love in movies and books. In fact, many moments in culture and history remind us that EQ often matters more than raw intelligence. The power of empathy in leadership. Think of some of the most respected leaders in history. For example, people often talk about Mahatma Gandhi. He was not known for military strength or wealth. Instead, he guided millions with patience, empathy, and calm communication. His emotional intelligence gave him the ability to understand people's struggles and connect deeply with their hopes. He didn't just rely on political knowledge or clever strategies. He relied on his capacity to feel what others felt, to stay calm under pressure, and to inspire through compassion. Gandhi's leadership reminds us that intelligence alone is not enough to move people. You need emotional intelligence to connect hearts, not just minds. EQ in sports and coaching. Another powerful example comes from the world of sports. Great coaches often succeed not because they know every technical detail of the game, but because they know how to motivate and connect with their players. They understand when to push hard and when to show empathy. Imagine a coach who shouts every time players make mistakes. That might create fear, but not growth. Now imagine a coach who notices when a player is struggling and takes time to encourage them, reminding them of their strengths and potential. That simple act of emotional intelligence often transforms performance. Many athletes say that what they remember most about their coaches is not the drills or tactics, but the emotional support and belief they received during tough moments. EQ in film and storytelling. Even in movies and books, we see the same truth. The characters who win our hearts are rarely the ones who solve everything alone or show off how smart they are. Instead, they're the ones who listen, show kindness, and learn to understand others. In many stories, the turning point happens when a character realizes that caring for others is more powerful than showing off intelligence. We admire characters and people who balance intellect with humanity. A personal reflection. But emotional intelligence isn't just something for leaders, coaches, or heroes. It also shapes the small, everyday moments in our lives. Let me share one from my own experience. There was a time when I was working on a group project. We were under pressure, deadlines were tight, and everyone was stressed. At one point, 2 team members got into a heated argument. Their voices grew louder, and both were focused on proving they were right. My first instinct was to jump in with logic, to analyze who had the stronger argument and solve the problem. But something told me to wait. Instead of focusing on the argument itself, I decided to focus on the emotions behind it. I simply said, "I can see both of you are frustrated. It's clear that you both care about doing this project well." That small comment changed the tone instantly. They paused. The tension in the room softened. We started talking about what was really happening, not just the disagreement, but the stress and pressure everyone was feeling. From that moment, the energy shifted from conflict to cooperation. It was a simple act of empathy, but it made all the difference. That day taught me something important. Emotional intelligence doesn't just solve problems, it heals relationships. It helps people feel seen, heard, and valued, even in moments of tension. A lesson from experience. I remember one situation clearly. During a group project, tensions rose between 2 team members. Voices were raised, and everyone was frustrated. I could have jumped in with logic, pointing out who was right or wrong. But instead, I said, "Let's take a short break and come back." At first, they looked surprised. But after a short pause, the mood calmed. When we returned, both were more willing to listen. In the end, the project went smoothly, not because I had the smartest solution, but because I used patience and empathy to guide the situation. That moment taught me something powerful. Raw intelligence can give you answers, but emotional intelligence gives you results. If I had relied only on logic, maybe one person would have won the argument. But the team spirit would have been broken. By showing empathy and patience, the entire group grew stronger, and we reached our goal together. Emotional intelligence in everyday life. We all face similar situations in our own lives. Maybe it's a family conflict, a misunderstanding with a friend, or a stressful moment at work. In those moments, emotional intelligence often matters more than knowing facts or being right. The ability to pause, listen carefully, and consider other people's feelings can turn a problem into a solution. Whether we look at Gandhi's leadership, the encouragement of great coaches, the wisdom of characters in films, or even our own small daily experiences, the lesson is the same. Emotional intelligence is often the hidden strength that makes the biggest difference. It may not shine as brightly as IQ on a test score, but it quietly shapes relationships, builds trust, and determines how people remember us. That is what makes it so powerful. Reflecting on the journey. As we come to the end of this episode, take a slow, deep breath. Think about everything we've explored together. We started with the idea that intelligence alone, the kind measured by numbers and test scores, is not the whole picture. Real life is messy. It's emotional. It's full of relationships, unexpected challenges, and moments that test us. In those moments, emotional intelligence often makes the difference between failure and success, conflict and connection, being heard and being ignored. Growth, not perfection. Now, let's be honest. Nobody wakes up one morning with perfect emotional intelligence. We all make mistakes. Maybe you've reacted too quickly and said something you regret. Maybe you've ignored someone's feelings because you were focused on being right. Maybe you've struggled with self-doubt, perfectionism, or the fear of being misunderstood. That's normal. We are all learning. What matters most is not avoiding mistakes, but growing from them. Emotional intelligence, like learning a language, is a journey, not a destination. Every pause before reacting, every act of listening, every moment of reflection builds your EQ. And with each step, you not only improve your relationships, but also become a wiser, calmer, and more confident version of yourself. A gentle challenge for this week. So, here's a gentle challenge for you this week. Try to notice your emotions before you react. When something annoys you, instead of answering immediately, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling right now? Anger, stress, frustration, fear? What might the other person be feeling at this moment? This simple pause can change everything. It can turn an argument into a conversation or a misunderstanding into an opportunity to build trust. The power of true listening. Here's another small experiment. In your next conversation, notice if you are really listening or if you're just waiting for your turn to speak. Many of us do this without realizing it. We nod, we smile, but in our minds, we're preparing our own response. Emotional intelligence asks us to do something different. Listen with patience. Give space. Show the other person that their words matter. Think for a moment, when was the last time someone truly listened to you, without interrupting, without rushing, without judgment? How did it feel? Most likely, it felt comforting, supportive, and even healing. You can give that same feeling to others. Connecting EQ with your English learning. And here's a connection to why you're here on Super English Talks. Practicing emotional intelligence can also help you grow as a language learner. When you pause before reacting, you give yourself time to think of the right words in English. When you listen carefully, you train your ears to catch new vocabulary, intonation, and expressions. When you show empathy in conversation, people feel comfortable speaking with you, which gives you more opportunities to practice. In other words, building EQ and building fluency go hand in hand. My invitation to you. So here's my invitation for you. This week, practice both. Practice your English in real conversations. And at the same time, practice emotional intelligence, pausing, listening, noticing emotions, and responding with care. Every small step you take will help you connect better with others, understand yourself more deeply, and become a more confident English speaker. Remember, EQ is the fuel that moves you forward, connects you to people, and turns intelligence into real success. Practical tips and reflection. Here are a few simple ways you can practice emotional intelligence while improving your English at the same time. Try journaling about your feelings in English. Write down what you are feeling each day and why. Notice patterns in your emotions and how they affect your actions. Practice active listening. When a friend or family member is speaking, give them your full attention. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Listen carefully to their words and the feelings behind them. Express empathy in English. Use simple phrases like, "I understand how you feel," or "that sounds really difficult." Even small acts of empathy can make a big difference in your relationships and your communication. These small steps may seem simple, but they're powerful. Each time you pause, listen, or respond with care, you are improving not just your English, but also your connection with others. A thought to reflect on. Before we finish, I want to leave you with one more reflection. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be remembered as? The smartest person in the room? Or the person who made others feel seen, heard, and valued? There is no right or wrong answer. But your choice will guide the way you grow in emotional intelligence, in English, and in life. Growing step by step. Thank you for spending this time with me today on Super English Talks. I hope this episode has given you something meaningful to think about and something practical to practice in your daily life. Remember, emotional intelligence is not about being perfect. It's about awareness of your feelings, making small, thoughtful choices, and being consistent every day. Step by step, you can become not only a better communicator in English, but also a stronger, kinder, and more connected human being. Sharing and continuing the journey. If this episode inspired you, I encourage you to share it with someone you care about. They may also need a reminder about emotional intelligence and how it shapes life. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss future episodes where we grow our English and our lives together. Until next time, take care of your words, your emotions, and your growth. Keep coding your English and keep coding your life, step by step, day by day, with awareness, patience, and empathy.